Germany heads to the polls in just over 2 weeks, and the country's economic challenges are an overriding election theme. Over the coming 30 minutes, we'll speak to some of the country's most powerful business voices to find out what's needed to get Europe's biggest economy back on track. Well, Bloomberg's Tom Mackenzie is in the financial hub of Frankfurt to get answers from leading chief executives. Tom.
Francine, thank you so much. Yes, who better to speak to about the health of this German economy and the policy prescription to revive its fortunes as we head to these crucial elections than the CEO of Bilfinger, Thomas Schulz, the CEO, of course, of RWE, Markus Krebber, and the CEO of Commerzbank, Bettina, Orlopp. Thank you so much all for taking the time. Let's start on the health of this German economy. We know the broad sweeps. 2 straight years of contraction for Germany's economy. A year as 2025 where the Bundesbank sees growth of maybe 0.2, maybe 0.3%. You all have your fingers on the pulse of different parts of this German economy. What is the current state of Germany's economy from your perspectives? And I want to start with you, Bettina.
Sure. We have a very similar opinion. So our forecast, GDP forecast, is also 0.2%. And clearly we hope that the new government might send some impulses so that this one is improving over the year. But for the time being, we also assume that this will be the growth rate for 2025. And what we see is high resilience, actually, which is good. So if you take last year, 2024, we saw only really single engagements falling apart, and the rest was very stable, very resilient, and corporate clients really did their homework and were pretty safe. And the problem we really have is that they do not invest in the moment enough. And that needs to change. Otherwise, we will really have a problem in the coming years, because without investments, we all know we won't see any growth.
OK, so 0.2%, you're seeing some resilience. You want to see that investment picked up. Thomas, from your perspective, the clients that you service, are you seeing that resilience, or is there pain across your sector?
Actually, we go through all the industries in Germany. We make service on all industries beside automotive. Otherwise, we are everywhere. And we see that all our clients are actually on a good track to make their internal improvements, cost base, lowering bureaucracy, and so on. We think actually in the next few years, German industry will perform better based on having that pressure at the moment. But the short-term view is not positive. Lack of investments, too high pressure from unorganized political decisions in the last 2 to 3 years really is a big concern for the industry.
Markus, we cannot talk about the health of this economy without talking about the energy input. From your perspective, what are you seeing right now in terms of the demands and the pressure across the energy space?
So what we see is, 2 different topics. One is the cyclical side, and we see weakness because energy demand from the German industry is low. It's structurally lower, I would say 15% pre-energy crisis. And that has 2 elements. One is, the cyclical weakness. We are an export economy. China is not doing well. But we also have fundamental structural problems. We don't see investments. Nobody is actually looking for long-term energy supply needs because there are no big investments plans. And that comes down to the structural problems which urgently need to be addressed.
The structural problems need to be addressed. Investment is something that you've all touched on. Bettina, across the Mittelstand, which of course you service, are you seeing pain there? Are you seeing a pickup in defaults? How much resilience are you seeing in the Mittelstand at this point?
Actually, as I said, we don't see it in the moment because they have been very conservative in their investment plans. But we all know that there are big challenges ahead of all of us with respect to digital sustainable transformation, and we need to invest. We also need to invest to see innovation, because without innovation we do not see growth. So we really need to make sure that the sentiment is changing, because I think there will be investment, but only if the Mittelstand also has the feeling that there is a stability, political stability, a stability in decisions, that there are reforms with respect to tax, with respect to bureaucracy, all these things we are talking about since years now. We think also you can change pretty quickly the sentiment. So there's hope that if we have a stable government after the election, that we will quickly see a shift in sentiment, and then we will also see more investments. Actually, we see also investments, but unfortunately they do not happen in Germany. So they go abroad. We see investments specifically in the US, but also in Asia. It is not that our corporates are not investing. You see it also in our loan growth. We had quite a significant loan growth last year because there is demand, but unfortunately it's not happening in Europe.
Okay, so it's possible we do get that political stability in a few weeks here in Germany. It's possible you get a turnaround in sentiment. What is the broader prescription for rejuvenating this economy, for making Germany great again? Markus.
Before I now list all the topics where I think we need structural change, let me say I think I've never experienced that the sense of urgency is that high. So there is really the pressure to change. So I'm optimistic that it's going to be addressed. But what needs to be addressed? One thing is we need to free up market forces. There's too much detailed regulation, too much bureaucracy. Second is we need to get the labor market more dynamic. There needs to be clearer incentives to work more and work longer. Third one is all the investments in infrastructure, transportation, energy, digital infrastructure. And then, of course, the investment and innovation environment. Capital market unions across Europe is needed. More money for private equity, for startups. Lastly, as Bettina said, also on the tax side, I mean, Germany is one of the highest taxed countries.
It sounds like, Markus, I don't want to stay with you and then I'll broaden it out, because you're hitting on a lot of policies that the current Trump administration are working through. Tax cuts, working longer, more people working longer, innovation, digitalisation, investment and regulation. Does Germany need an Elon Musk, a Doge, a Department of Government Efficiency to cut regulation?
I would say we definitely need to address the topic. Whether it's that approach, let's see how successful they are. If they are successful, let's copy it. Otherwise, we go our European way.
Thomas?
At first, I would not put a comparison with US. It looks always similar, Europe and US. It isn't in the way how they do it. So I would not say we need an Elon Musk. At first, we need in Germany to have a closer cooperation between politics and economy and the business. That is completely so far away. I never saw it in an industrialized country so much as in the last few years. So out of that, all what we heard now, what to tackle, are actually European themes too. But in Germany, we have all of them. We have to stop to make own decisions only for Germany. We have to look more into Europe and to drive that. A big part of that is, I take only the labor and the incentive for going to work. Germany works in average less than 35 hours per week. Less than 35 hours per week. And this is the third lowest in the European Union. If we would increase with the right incentives and lowering to incentivize not to go to work, then we could come easily to 37, 38, which is average for Europe. And a lot of the problems of the skilled labor shortage, what we have, is gone. We have the education, we have the specialists in a large extent, but we need to work longer. And that needs a political decision to go ahead and to make the right, let's say, political framework in Germany that we get it through the society. We are actually in a situation in the last 2-3 years where we talk about all the problems, but nothing happens. And the industry reacts on it by not investing. Our netto invest in Germany dropped from minus 47 billion euro per year under Mrs. Merkel to more than 110 billion under Mr. Schulz. And that should be a warning signal to each and everyone, and that is ongoing for years. But I agree, the hope, actually, the trust what we have is with a change and a little change of the political spectrum and a real economy and politics together, way of working, we can really change the tide and going back into growth.
Bettina, on the question then of how to attract that investment into the German economy, and I'm going to assume and make a bold assumption that you work far more than 35 hours per week. To get that investment, you need a competitive banking landscape. Yeah. European banks are not competing with US banks anywhere near in terms of the margins and profit and revenues, net interest margins. US banks are outperforming European banks. Just broadly, as a prospect, as a thesis, as an idea, do you agree that consolidation in the European banking space is needed to create larger European banks that can effectively compete with their US counterparts?
Well, that's a nice way of articulating that. Yes, I mean, we need consolidation, but cross-border consolidation in Europe only works if we have a banking union. So we need to start with a European-wide deposit protection scheme. And if we have that, then also cross-border deals become much more attractive because we can really shift liquidity and capital and other resources across the countries. And because that one is very far-reaching, we always support the capital market union to start with, because already a deeper, more functioning capital market during the capital market would help already Europe, and we really need to activate our private capital, which we don't do. I mean, look at Germany. We are unfortunately a country of savers and not investors, and we need to change that. So we really need to increase financial literacy here. We need to convince the people that it's smarter to have a securities saving plan instead of leaving the money on their sight deposits and things like that, having private retirement schemes, all these things, because that would activate capital, and this capital can be used for what Markus just said. First of all, financing venture capital, really startups, because without innovation, without startups, we do not get new companies, but we also need to have the financing power for the developed corporates, because the investment need is huge.
Does the next government look and need to re-look at the debt brake in Germany? You have 62% debt to GDP. We have 97% in the UK, 120%, more than 120% in the US. Does the debt brake need to be reassessed by the next government to ensure that there is more fiscal spending? Thomas?
I'm actually surprised about the question, and I'm actually surprised about the whole discussion in Germany. If you look into your money, you look at first what you spend before you increase your thinking about your debt level. Look where you spend the money. And we have not a problem to have enough money available for the government. We have a problem how we spend it. The spending issue is the big thing. If that is sorted out, then to talk about that, what we call the maximum limit of the debt level, can be discussed, no problem. But at first, please, analyze and decisions how we spend the money. There's a lot of money going for, let me say, in all fairness, useless things, not sustainable. And I think there we have to look into. And to be honest, the politicians have to be honest where they spend the money. The amount of government officers in Germany from 2013 doubled. That means from 49 to 2013, the amount what we had is now doubled since 2013 to now. I think we should look into that. It can't be the answer of a government to recruit more bureaucrats if they see an issue to sort out. That can't be the answer.
Markus, you keep the debt brake or you loosen the debt brake?
I 100% agree. I think the worst thing that can happen, we have a huge advantage with consolidated financials on government level as Germany. Of course, gives us lots of headroom. But the worst thing that can happen is that we now ease all the political problems, finding decisions and taking the tough decisions, by opening the debt brake and spend it on consumption. Yeah? So first, I fully agree, we need to sort out where we spend the money. And then if there are good ways to spend the money on infrastructure investments and the future, then you can address the debt brake. But that order, please, not the other way around.
Bettina?
Yeah, I think I'm also, we need to look at the spending side. However, I mean, time is of essence. So I think in parallel, you also need to think about what you do with the debt brake. And I think the important part is that not to find a joint alignment on what is investment. Because many times it's more consumption than investment. So investment is really investment in infrastructure, etc. So as long as we can make sure that the new debt is used for real investments, I would support that. If in parallel there's a cut in spending.
What would those real investments look like to you?
Well, it's infrastructure investment, railway, streets, the whole infrastructure with respect to energy and things like that, digitization.
To get consumers to spend, you need them to feel more comfortable about their own finances. Energy costs have been a pain point for households, but particularly as well businesses. German businesses, industrials paying 3 times the amount for energy on average versus their US counterparts, twice versus China. Markus, how do we lower energy prices? What is the prescription there? Do we need subsidies? Do we need tax cuts for the grids? What specifically is needed to lower energy costs?
Let's first briefly look at what are the root causes. We have 2 root causes. One is, of course, we are cut off of Russian gas, and we now need to import LNG. That's a marginal molecule coming into Europe, and that is more expensive. That's a structural change. We have to adapt. That is not different for countries like South Korea or Japan. They're always dependent on LNG, and they're still industrialized countries. The second biggest problem we have is underinvestment. For more than a decade, we have now only discussed what we close, nuclear, coal, and so on. We have now made certain progress on renewables, but we still need to have more investments because we have a supply crunch still, and you see that from price spikes we see from week to week. So we need more investment. Second is we need to rely on market forces. There is an over-regulation in the decarbonization path. Actually, we have a European emission cap and trade system that should sort out where you save emissions most efficiently. But we in detail regulate everything we can do, and that makes things slow, more expensive, and by that drives energy prices. And the last thing, we need a bit more coordination and the right incentives, because currently the grid build-out and the renewable build-out and backup capacity are not synchronized. And we have a lot of renewable assets which can actually not get the power to the consumer because the grid is not ready, and that also drives costs.
Are you comfortable taking more gas, in theory, from the US? It's certainly potentially part of a trade deal between Europe and the Trump administration, buying more US gas, or do we become more dependent then? We have the dependency on Russia, that's been eroded, of course, and then we become dependent on the US. Is that a risk?
If you have an import infrastructure which makes you independent from a supplier, when you have LNG import infrastructure, you can buy from anybody, from Qatar, from the US, even from Australia. Shipping-wise, not smart, but you are not dependent. You are dependent when you are at the end of only one pipeline system. Yeah, but with LNG infrastructure, we are not dependent. Let me ask the first question you said with a nuance. I think even if we get everything right on the energy side and make it more efficient and cheaper, I think the energy-intensive industry still needs structural relief to be competitive staying in Europe, because we have a different decarbonization path than other parts of the world. And I doubt whether CBAM really works. So I think there is a case for some structural relief for the energy-intensive industry to keep it here.
Thomas, does there need to be that relief? Subsidies, tax cuts?
Let me answer like that. Of course, I agree. The thing is, we are over-regulated. And if you are over-regulated, you put all your forces in reporting the regulation requests instead of getting more innovative. We talk about startups, I agree. But when you look into the innovation investment of German industry in the last 10 years, it's permanently decreasing, and other countries are increasing. We work mainly, 90% of that what we work on are existing assets, 10 years, 20, 30, 40 years old. There's a lot of potential to improve. Second, I'm generally against that the politics are putting their hands on the business. The market should regulate it. And that's with the LNG the case. If it makes profit, then we will have the infrastructure and we will have competition on the suppliers. I would not make political decisions on that. I would really open the market for that. Then to the energy-intensive industry in Germany. We have since more than 10 years now a really opposite politics decisions on energy-intensive industry in Germany. And that has a big impact. The question is, if we need energy, and we need energy, we have to be able to forecast it. It can't be that we are 3 times higher in the cost. It can't be that we shut down nuclear power plants and then we have the biggest import out of France ever, nuclear power. It can't be that we as a technology country actually cut off out of moral and political reasons technologies. So what we say is, yes, sustainable green technology is necessary, but until we have it available in a competitive financial way, we need other buffers to serve our high energy industry. Otherwise, it's gone.
I want to get to Bettina, but before I do, I can't let that one go. So, Markus, nuclear power. Should the next government look at reviving your nuclear power plants? The CDU has suggested they would be open to an appraisal.
Look, the decision has been taken by politicians in 2011. So we know since then that the closure will happen. All the operators have planned for that, so there is no qualified staff available. I can go.
So you're happy to take French nuclear power rather than German nuclear power?
No, what we need to have a strategy how we actually ensure security of supply and how we replace nuclear and coal. And the ideas are on the table since a decade, but nothing happens. And building 50 gas plants, which is the right thing to do, will only, is probably in the end per annum 3% of the total power cost. It's from a cost perspective irrelevant. Let's just get the investments done. But we are waiting for the framework now, and with another delay because the government fall apart.
Okay, so on that point, there's the interaction between politics and business, and this is being debated here. Bettina, are you confident that the next government, whoever it is and whatever form and shape it takes, will have your back and support you as an independent bank at Commerzbank?
Yes, I think so. At least, we are in talks with all Democratic Party leaders, and they also all have openly communicated their support and their stance about the approach, and therefore we are confident that we have the support, but we are not relying on it, actually, because we built our own strategy, and we just completed a very, very successful year, 2024. And we are continuing this trend this year, and we'll have an excellent Capital Markets Day next week on Thursday, where we present our upgraded strategy and where we will show that we're very worthy. And
so you've been talking just to be clear, you have the Capital Markets Day, February the 13th, really crucial for Commerzbank, given UniCredit's 28% stake in your business. You've been having conversations with Merz of the CDU, CSU, and you're confident that he will support the pushback against this potential takeover?
He has also, all party leaders have publicly stated their support, and our MP here of Hessia, Mr. Ryan, has been very explicit. So we feel very much supported, yes.
How should Germany think about potential tariffs from the Trump administration? How much of a risk is that, Bettina?
It is a risk, absolutely, and I think the most important part is that Europe is prepared, that Europe stands together, and that we have a coordinated response to it. And at the very end, I think it's all about deals. So two parties then need to sit together and strike a deal.
We have about a minute left before we have to turn back to Francine Lacroix, sitting in the studio in London. Markus, before we get there, how should Germany respond to the threat of Trump tariffs?
I would not see it as a threat. It's probably a start of a negotiation. So be prepared, and we have seen what happens with Canada and Mexico. They were prepared to counteract, and then you start the negotiations. And but what is important is that we also clearly define our own interests, our European interests, what we actually want. Before you have defined your interests, it's difficult to negotiate on.
Does it change your business plans, Thomas?
No, and I would not call it a threat. I fully agree with Markus on that.
Tariffs are definitely coming. That's what the president said.
And then they come. And then we have to improve, and then we have to get our acts together and doing things faster, because he brings in speed, decision speed, and we need that urgently in Europe. So I don't see that negative.
Are you factoring in mitigation for potential tariffs into your business plans?
My business doesn't have any tariffs in that, because we only supply industrial service, so IP, if you would like to say it like that. So from that point of view, but generally, it's like a business. It's a kind of a competition. If you have good competitors, you grow your business.
Okay. Thomas Schulz, CEO of Bilfinger, Markus Krebber, CEO of RWE, and of course Bettina Orlopp, CEO of Commerzbank, staying with us. We're going to hand back to Francine Lacroix right now in the studio in London. The team back in London. Guys.
Tom, thank you so much. What a terrific briefing, a very important briefing to try and understand some of what the chief executives have to grapple with. We did have some good news today about industry stabilization because of the factory orders. But as Tom points out, there's still a lot to be done. The German election chief executive briefing continues on our website as well as on LiveGo for terminal subscribers. We'll also bring you all of the news, analysis and market moves as we continue to build up to the German elections later this month, including a special program when polls close. That's on Sunday, February 23rd, live from Berlin. Well, the Pulse is up next, and we'll, of course, be covering the fallout from President Trump's comments on Gaza, with most countries in the Middle East condemning his plans. We're also looking at corporate news and earnings season. Don't miss our exclusive interview with the chief executive of Intesa Sanpaolo, Italy's largest bank. That's coming up shortly, and this is Bloomberg.